pirate ghost in the cat that's been like spent years and years trying to work cat vocal cords into human speech.
What if that's what happens when we die? We just become cats. We're trapped.
Why cats are such assholes.
And they're like, help me!
Welcome to the Rewatchers on the Pod, where we are currently watching The Leftovers Season 2. You're here with me, Tyler Harris, and...
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
And this week, we watched the finale of Season 2, episodes 9 and 10, and we are here to talk about all of the stuff that happened, and I'm about to tell you what all that stuff was, thanks to a wonderful summary written by Tyler McKinley. And my phone just went... Here, 3, 2, go. Episode 9. Meg is a lady, so she should say she needs to drain a lizard instead of pee. Meg's mom is dying to tell that story of hers. Isaac needs the vital ingredient of elf spit to talk to the dead. Evie bestows vegetables and false promises. Megan goes to the principal's office. Tommy quits showbiz. Tommy sells out his family like a prick. Road trip. Just what we were all asking for. A whole episode with these two. I can't think of a relationship I've wanted less in a TV show ever. Meg is not a fan of dirt bikers. Meg is Matt's promised messiah. Tommy finds a trailer full of the one thing that can get him to do anything. Girls. Episode 10. The music those girls listen to. Talk about rough. The people faking their own death run into the guy trying to kill himself to get rid of the dead woman in his head, who later kills himself again, only to rise from the dead. Erica has a problem with both her husbands and their wrapped gifts. Opposite problems and different holidays, though. Woof, my head. Wholesome moments of the Manhattan Home Volume 2. Kevin gets fingered by John and the Bobbies. Jill and the reconciliation with the mother. Nora is stress incarnate. Nora doubts the repair capabilities of a carpenter. The key to making Mary wake up is to shake her really goddamn hard. Meg conveniently succeeds in doing what 100 people have already tried. John still cannot believe why somebody wouldn't love him, so he literally shoots the messenger. Evie is raging against the machine in her own way by being calm like a bomb. Michael wants to set the record straight about the bathtub incident. It was not a bomb of explosives, but a bomb of pretentious assholes. Tommy wants a redemption arc, and while I've got the money, I ain't buying any of that shit. Chief Garvey is back, and he has a shit ton of travel rewards points to spend. Garvey is homeward bound. Simon and Garfunkel can make the toughest of men shed tears. Nothing to be ashamed of. Holy shit, it was that simple. The power of folk music is real. Garvey has a leg up on Jesus because he's come back twice and it only took him like a day for the second one. Can we say that cults from Texas are dumb? Oh, I get that. That was a SpongeBob joke that I missed until I read it. John is the Thomas who doubted until he felt the spear wound of the Christ, and then the Pixies fucking played. JC is a big fan of Where's My Mind. Actual wholesome moments at the Garvey home? Volume 1? Multiple question marks? The end. All right. Let's talk about this shit.
Yeah.
Fucking Meg. Tired of fucking Meg. So how do you guys feel about Meg?
What? Why is she so mean? I don't understand why she's so mean.
Why is she so anything? Like, I think that one of my problems with Meg is I don't understand a lot of her deals. Like, I get the deals that they've set up for her to have, but then like kind of the end of that road where we've gotten, I cannot comprehend. I don't know. I just don't get it. So I think that's part of the reason I hate Meg. Also, just, man, could they, like, did anyone ever like go to Liv Tyler and just like a little, just like pep? Like, we are paying you, right? Like, you're getting a paycheck. You're acting for a living. So do it.
I mean, who's Liv Tyler's mom?
Stephanie Tyler.
And when were they a thing?
I have no idea. I made up that name. I don't know.
Oh.
It was just Steven Tyler, Stephanie Tyler. I am honestly, in my mind, it was that they were never in the same room. And
The amount of drugs Steven Tyler was probably doing might have been shared.
it's fair. That's fair.
And
He had sex with himself and birthed Liv Tyler.
I mean, probably out of his mouth, yeah.
Oh, man.
It's like a reverse Greek myth.
But yeah, Meg's, I mean, yeah, the performance is rough. It's hard to like get behind that. And then it's like, it's another thing that I like mentioned with Tommy with his plan, except I'd say worse, where it was like, yeah, you better wow me with this finale part of it. And nothing about her master plan worked for me at all. Like, I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, like it didn't make sense from a motivation standpoint, because it's like the whole purpose of the Remnant is reminding people who lost people that they're responsible, but nobody in that town was responsible according to their theory, right? So it's like,
Well, but she said that in order to get people into the cult, they had to be hurting, and so she was causing them pain. So is she going to recruit the entire town? Is that her plan?
Yeah, well, I guess that's part of my problem too. Is like she's clearly not like. I mean, she is guilty remnant, but only barely, and only like in the sense that she wants to fuck with people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but that stuff is never like. I don't know. Is she trying to recruit the whole town? Why? Do they have a bunch of surplus in their cigarette budget and they need people to smoke those things? Like I don't know. It's weird. So I'm in the same boat.
yeah, motivations is the hardest thing for me with her and her master plan, and also the fact that it kind of betrays its own world building. It's like, there's the security around this place is fucking insane. People are trying to charge in all the time, and they just take them out. And then how does it end up working? Someone just charges in. Like, cool.
Well, but this time they had bolt cutters.
Oh,
And there were 7 of them.
but so
and
did the
only
man
4
with the
guards.
samurai bun.
That's true. That's true. He just never applied them to that fence. It's always, you get different results if you're not cutting the right locks. That's what they always tell you in bolt cutter school.
That was your yearbook quote, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Make sure you use all your inventory in the right places. I've been playing a lot of Resident Evil. So
That's maybe what I thought of.
very, very specific thing that was only in my head.
Oh yeah, but yeah, and then I think just the whole like switcheroo was like, congrats. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I guess it just goes back to the thing we already talked about. Don't want to beat it to death, but yeah, it just nothing worked for me as far as Meg's plan, and at this point, her storyline really for me. And fuck Tommy. Like that episode where it's just 2 of them was torture.
Tommy doesn't know what he wants. He doesn't know what's right. He doesn't know what's wrong. And he can't even like decide on and stick with a bad course of action.
Yeah. It's so hard because I think both these characters are betrayed on almost every front. Like, I don't think either of their performances are great, but I think if the writing was better, it would probably be okay. Mm-hmm. But the writing in it is just bad too. Like, for all those reasons that we just talked about, and I don't know. And I think especially like we talked kind of early in this season about them kind of truncating maybe some arcs that are changed that we would have liked to have seen more gradually. But this is by far, I think, the most egregious offender. I mean, we see Meg for like that one scene early on, that extremely disturbing scene with Tommy, and then not again until this episode. And I don't know. It's just weird. It just feels like
They didn't know what to do with the finale, so they were like, "Oh, I guess Meg can fuck things up."
Yeah, I guess. Well, and that's the other thing too, is like the Evie stuff. I think is not a whole lot better. I don't know. Maybe you guys have insights on the Evie stuff that I've missed.
I was hoping we were going to get more of Evie's motivations in the next season, because like right now I don't get it at all.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. She's just like the rest of the guilty remnants, how I understood it, which I feel like we've already treaded that territory. So it's like, I don't know. Like, she's kind of like the guilty remnant, except not feeling guilty about anyone personally leaving, per se. Just this town. She feels the town is kind of denying the outside world and the things that happen there, and almost feeling special for it, I guess, would be my take on her. So she's she just feels kind of grossed out living in that bubble, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I don't know. I still feel like that's just repackaging something we've already done in a different wrapping.
Sure.
Like,
Well, and I think that sorry, I think the finale, a lot of my read on stuff kind of hinges on the speech like that Michael gives at church, where he kind of corrects the story and then ends with the like, we are the 9,000 whatever they say, and he says we are not spared. And like I do like the idea that this is almost a mirror of the first season, where it's kind of like you have all these people, you have this event that happens, no one's okay, and then by the end of the season you have people who are like, okay, maybe we can be okay. And kind of at the beginning of this, you start with this town where everyone's like, everything's fucking great, we live in a like utopia, and then by the end of this season maybe you have them all thinking like, oh, this sucks. You know what I mean? Like, so I like those aspects of it, but yeah, they're just a couple like key character things that even when connected to that just don't fully get there for me. But yeah, I don't know. We've kind of talked a lot about the end. Let's oh man, how much of Meg's, I mean, that whole episode is Meg and Tommy, right?
I'm trying to remember what even happens besides the last like half hour or 20 minutes of it.
Yeah. I mean, they try to get us to buy her as the Joker, or she goes onto a school bus,
Oh, yeah.
like pulls a pin out of a grenade and like barricades kids in this bus, which is, it's just,
I think with
insane and
her
weird.
especially, there's a lot of like world rule things. I'm like, you would be arrested. Like some of the things they do in
Right.
the first season, it's like,
It's like gray areas. Yeah.
yeah, it's like what law have they actually broken with some of these things until they break into people's house,
Yeah,
obviously.
right.
But like, you have to prove that, but these are like very. How many witnesses do you have that this woman just, did the grenade thing and all the other bullshit she's doing? I'm
There's
like,
that government agency that's just like totally fine with taking out
Yeah.
terrorists too. And,
Where's our
like,
goddamn eye patch lady?
they're not even
from,
here.
Like, the
Yeah.
second episode.
If there's a guilty remnant who throws a grenade, even a fake one on a school bus, that agency, we are led to believe from season 1, would have come in and just wiped those guys out.
yeah.
Right.
If they care about you having sex with a lot of Asians,
Right.
they're going to care about grenades.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would like be more interested in that than grenades. But yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. They just
Doing what? We better go investigate.
like on a scale of staring at people on the street to having sex with a bunch of Asians, where would you say this falls? Jeez. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. There's, I don't know. I guess we see there are like a couple scenes that I kind of like in theory. Again, but I'm just beating the dead horse now. But like, fucking the performance is it's just not there. But kind of the like that first scene with Tommy where like he's doing the Holy Wayne thing, I think is cool to see and interesting, because that's something that we've had hinted at for a few episodes now and haven't really seen anything. And so it's kind of interesting to see that. But yeah,
I just felt they kind of went backwards with Tommy's character. Like,
yeah,
the stuff he was dealing with in the first season was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, all I can say about his motivations are he really wants to get laid again. Like,
yeah,
I don't know any other thing, because like even in that last episode, he's like, "There is no family." She's like, "That's not the point." He's like, "Oh, I thought that's what you wanted me to say." Like, it's like he's literally just
yeah.
that's, I don't know. It is gross to me, and it just feels like a huge step backwards from the things he was dealing with to. That's literally, I mean, unless you guys have another take on like why he's doing what he's doing.
Again, it's one of those things that I feel like it's so truncated. It's hard to pick that out. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
What do you think it would be better if they just like left Meg out of this whole season?
I mean, kind of. I think here's the thing that I guess I don't like about the world building that bringing Meg back introduces in this season is the idea of like some centralized board of directors for the Guilty Remnant. Like before, we kind of knew they were in other places, but it felt kind of like this. They were just popping up and there was no, organization. And it was like, and to me, that's way more interesting. So if you want to keep the same like idea of the Guilty Remnant with Evie, but you just have it be, I like the shot of like when the countdown stops and all those Guilty Remnant people start stripping down and then putting on Guilty Remnant stuff. Like that's kind of like interesting and like, oh shit. But like the idea of like Meg having to be the leader of it, and also that like introducing like I said, like this council of remnants that like are calling the shots, and they're like, listen, we got to do things by the book. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to me. I don't like that stuff. And honestly, I think without that, you can cut Meg from this season pretty easily.
Dude.
But also,
I feel like
then you can't put Liv Tyler's name in the credits, which I don't know who that was a draw for. I mean, I guess it's like someone whose name you know, so like maybe it gives it more cachet. I don't know. It's just weird. Maybe they'd already signed her. Maybe she was under contract for another season. They're like, well, here we go. I don't know. But anyways.
It's all about who you know in California.
It's all about it. It's all about it.
Who your dad is.
Your dad's the Aerosmith?
Who your dad has had lunch, golfed, or played guitar with. The Aerosmith.
All right, let's I'm sure we'll talk more about Meg and Evie and that stuff, but let's kind of move on to the second episode, which like is pretty packed. There was a point where I was like, oh yeah, this episode doesn't just end here. There's a lot more of this episode left. But we basically, I think for me, and that's kind of true, I think, of this season. What I want to say is like the Kevin stuff I find really interesting, mostly just because how fucking weird it is.
Yeah.
And also by the end of the season, how fucking goofy it is.
Yeah.
Like it like that first International Assassin episode like delivered for me on like, man, this is like a really interesting and weird way to explore like the themes they want to. And then like, I don't know. Just my second favorite moment is just him getting shot by John, looking in the mirror and just be like, motherfucker. Like, he's now just this like demigod that is like straddling life and death. And it's fucking Kevin Garvey. Like, it's just awesome.
That definitely got me to laugh. I like that a lot. Gwen commented during this second trip to the hotel about how Twin Peaksy it all felt, which obviously, like, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I liked it so much, is it felt familiar, just kind of the vibe and the weirdness and like, just not really knowing what's going on, but it was a good time.
It's all little choices in both. I mean, that first one and the return there that really feel good. Just like when he spins that wheel and it doesn't trail off, it just like, just shit like that is great.
I think it's so fun, and like I think also like it pushes Kevin's character even further. I mean, because by the end of the first season we had such a beat down Garvey where he was like, and even at the beginning of the season he's like, I mean, I need to answer for my crimes. Maybe that will if I clean my conscience, that will like, get rid of all this other bullshit. But just, I think probably one of my favorite scenes in the show too is the scene where John finds him at the hospital after, and he's like nearly passed out trying to gauze himself. And just the line of John is like, I don't know what is going on. I was just like, me neither. And it's just like this moment, and it's like this friendship is just like knit between the most unlikely people all of a sudden. And it's, I don't know. I think that stuff is executed so well and is really interesting. But yeah, I don't know.
I really like this shit because it makes. I mentioned on another episode that like the show needs to do something and not just repeat the same theme over and over again. And I feel like unless something happens in season 3 that changes it, I feel like these episodes kind of did that a bit. With his stuff, like that stuff, that shit's unexplainable. Like that's nothing with him is like, oh well, you could explain it if this like perfectly lined up. It's like, no, man, that man is
yeah.
that man is chosen by the universe for something, and that's what I wanted. I was like, because I think that makes the other stuff we've talked about to death of that theme that I have disliked. Well, not necessarily disliked, just concerned it was going to be the whole thing.
Sure.
I think it makes those more effective because now we have, it's not like, oh, everything's fake. It's now like, oh, well, if something's, and now it leads us to like, I don't know, those things now become more like, well, was it? And that question now becomes more interesting because the answer's not automatically no.
Right. Sure. Yeah, I love those episodes. I could seriously talk about them all day. They're so good.
I mean, you don't have to spoil anything, but season 3, like, also pretty weird.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil anything. I will say so. Season 3 is shorter. It's only 8 episodes.
Oh, okay.
And it's another one of those things where we're probably gonna get. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about this next week. Is like kind of the idea of like, oh, they had a story that they wanted to tell, and it maybe wasn't directly following this one, so they do some work early on to be like, and now we're here. But I will say,
That
like,
sucks.
but once you get the thrust of what they're going for in season 3, I think you will like it. Because anyways, we'll talk all about it. But some of my favorite episodes of the show, I think, are in season 3. They're really great.
I mean, with HBO and stuff, they know before they even start production if it's their final one, right?
Yeah. So in this, this is actually a case they didn't know going into this season, and then by the end of the season, they were like, kind of getting the feeling they weren't going to get picked up again. And so I'm pretty sure they kind of threw something together preemptively that they're like, hey, give us 8 episodes because we want to wrap up some of the things that we've got here. And apparently they read that and they were like, okay, cool. Yeah, let's do these 8 episodes. But yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyways, back to Jordan.
I mean, don't answer this because I don't want it to be spoiled. And I'm not going to even look at you while I say this, but it's like, I mean, I really enjoyed John and Erica and their family in this season. I think they were a wonderful addition to this, and I am going to be a little hurt if we don't get them, I guess, in the next season. Because, I mean, I think both those characters are really interesting and provide something to the show that I feel like, characters like Meg and arguably Tommy don't. And so, like, I hope we get, I don't know. I just love the dilemma of that family in that town. That was the funnest part of this season is Miracle and how fucking weird it was. And it does, the show does such a great job of, with its world building and a lot of its characters, not all of them, but like everything is driven by the decisions they've already established. Whereas a lot of shows are like, well, we want to reach this point. Our character now has to make all these choices that are out of character to get there, or we have to change the rules a little bit for us to get there, or introduce this new magical object that changes everything for us to get there. Whereas the show is very much like, I mean, obviously in that glaring one I point out of the security and Miracle, it's like everything has been like, we've established this is natural. And even the creation of Miracle for the season is like, okay, we've established this horrible event in this world and how people are acting. What if there was a town where nobody disappeared? How would the people in this town be?
Sure.
Who are the people in this town? And I feel like they answered that question perfectly.
Yeah. Let's talk about let's also talk about Nora. Because it's been a while since we've really seen Nora in any, I guess a couple episodes since we've seen any Nora in any bigger capacity. But we do have that moment, that line in the summary really got me, of just shaking Mary really hard to wake her up. I guess no one had tried that. But I do remember the first time I watched this, I was so relieved that Mary woke up and I wasn't going to have to like face the possibility of Matt Jameson having slept with his comatose wife and getting her pregnant. Like, I just remember being like, oh my God, I'm so glad that he wasn't like hallucinating that or like any of that.
The pastor's not a rapist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've never been so happy to say that sentence out loud.
The whole time I was like, dude, you need to get your phone out and start recording like right now. Like this is,
Yeah.
she could go back any moment.
Yeah.
Like,
But I think that stuff's all really great. I think too, this is one of those episodes that really solidifies. I mean, I've always liked Matt, but there's just something about that kind of reunion and that, like, seeing them together. I really like Matt Jameson. He's such a, like, he's one of those guys that's like, I don't agree with a lot of stuff that you do, but like, I get that you're doing it for, like, it's very important to you for some reason. And like, there's something admirable about that, at least. But yeah, he's just so great, and I'm so happy to finally have a baby. Speaking of babies, people.
yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to say fucking psychos who like steal kids from other
The
people.
Jedi?
Yes, exactly. The Jedi. So glad that they found a way to get Star Wars into the leftovers.
Wait, who are we talking about? I am still
Just
lost.
the crazy woman who
Oh,
like steals
yes, okay.
Lily from.
I thought you were
from
talking about like
Nora.
a group. Okay, yeah.
Oh no.
I'm here.
But that whole that's not your baby. That's not. Oh man, I just hate that woman. And
Dude, what if he yanked her nose?
that's
chain out?
us. Like, that's yes. I did think about that.
Oh, who's that comedian who talks about? He's like, have you ever seen these freaks with the nose rings? Just pull those out. 5 seconds later, they blow up like a grenade.
That was the actual plan for the bridge.
Has anyone seen our grenade?
I don't know. She ran off with a baby.
And then dropped it. I want to see what happened there. That's not your baby. Football hustle all the way down, and also just like,
Did she find another baby that she had to pick up and couldn't like hold both of them? She's like, well, new baby trumps old baby. Yeah, like I think the stuff that's kind of introduced with Nora in this episode. I mean, it kind of starts with the radio call-in show that's like eerily like specific maybe to her situation and stuff like.
I love how that's happened to her twice. Like with the phone call.
Oh right, yeah.
And one ends up being the demons, and then it's Jesus.
Yeah. Which I think is great. I think it is great how that seemingly just takes the whole, like, that whole moment is like kind of building to like what feels like is going to be this like epiphany or something, and then like all the air is just let out of it when he's like, well, you can fix that, Jesus, and how can they donate to Jesus? Like, it's just like feels so smarmy and like gross. But I think that's such a great moment, and I think that for me, like in this last episode too, like that tension, like, and the way they build that and pay that off in those moments where the baby gets taken, the camera work in the chase where she's going through the crowd, I think is great, because I find myself like looking to see if I can spot that lady.
Yep.
And I can't, but it's like, it's just, I think that stuff is really good, and it feels like a good like final thing for Nora's character at the end of this season, where she's just been doing everything she can to get some semblance of a life back, and even now, like, it's just not working. It's not working out. But yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on Nora or that stuff?
The bit with the radio Jesus made me think of what Tommy was doing with his placebo hugs and Nora getting mad at placebo Jesus. Like, it's such a dilemma for me. Like, if something's working and it's not doing anyone any harm, like, is it bad? Is it wrong?
Right.
Gwen,
Yeah.
have you ever lied to your children to make something go down easier?
I'm not very good at that, actually.
I actually really believe that. I fully believe that that's not your strength.
Yeah. We talked to May about global warming the other day, so
Not a whole lot of
No.
not enough sugar in the world to make that
I
go down.
talked to
in
May
the
yeah,
about
I
global-
passed it on to you.
Yeah. Hey, you should ask your dad about global warming. And for the next 15 minutes, I'm like trying to explain this stuff to May, and she's just sitting there like, okay.
I mean, if there's any kid who's gonna get it, it's probably May.
Yeah.
Probably.
I mean,
I expect May will have a solution in a few months. Like that's what I expect.
I accidentally like tripped my way into having like the death talk with Max, not intentionally at all. I was drawing one of the things for the game, and the character had a shield. He's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's a shield." "What's a shield?" Well, and then it turned into like
So you're not good at it
I
either.
had to try and explain what a shield does, and then I realized I had to explain the necessity of a shield revolves around death. And so that didn't go too well. I don't think he got it either. So
This is why your dad can't drive past graveyards on his way to work every day.
Oh man. Yeah, no, but I think that's an interesting like going back to that idea of like this and I think that this show is kind of riddled with that, right? It's like we have all these people with very like solid beliefs or lack of beliefs and stuff, and like watching how they navigate these situations I think is really interesting. And it does like bring up a lot of those questions of like, is that self-deception okay? Is it self-deception? Like, that's the other thing this show calls into question is like, well, guys can just come back from the dead now, dog. Like, they just have to sing a song in karaoke and bang, they're back.
Yeah, that took quite a turn. Like, all of a sudden it was like, yep, magic's real. It's like, oh, walnuts, cake.
I was relieved.
like not only can you come back from the dead, but people are daring you to do it. Like, you're not gonna fucking do it.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Probably why
sing a
I'm not ever
song.
coming back from the dead.
a little bit of an aside, but I was a little pissed to learn that earthquakes happen all the time in Jarden because they had been tied so closely to the disappearance thematically. I was like, well, that fucks that up. Dang it. I felt so smart.
There are magic earthquakes there. Don't
Yeah,
know what's going on.
but then also, Mary Jameson wakes up right after one of them. But that's got to be just coincidence
just because
it's
Matt
like,
never. Mary, wake up!
No.
Never
We've
did
got
it.
we've got 3 miracles after earthquakes now. We've got the draining to save Garvey and the degraving of Garvey and Mary waking up.
the degraving of Garvey is something I love that. The degraving of Garvey.
How else would I have said
No,
that?
I love it.
actually
I'm
beautiful.
Such a fan. Yeah, it
sounds like-
feels biblical.
Yeah. I'm gonna say like a Victorian like horror story like title.
Let's
I
write
went
that
to the
Penny
cemetery
Dreadful.
with Garvey
Oh
the other
fuck!
night.
What is his name? The thriller dude. The
Michael Jackson?
no. The guy. Fair. The guy who speaks in the beginning. What's his? God, why can't I think of the horror movie dude with the
Oh,
voice
The
where he
voice
he
of
does
Thriller.
the spoken intro to Thriller.
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know. I don't remember his
uh,
name.
oh god damn it, Vincent Price.
This was way too long to make the point I
no,
was
it's
making.
Vincent Price. It's Vincent Price. Let's go
It
back.
sounds like a
Vincent
Vincent Price narrated the degraving of Garvey.
Spooky spiders. Garvey was degraved. But not by the deranged. I don't know. And he stops. I can't do
No,
I can't do
I want to see where this goes.
This is going nowhere.
Yeah, let's take this and run with it.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. So it is the earthquake only has enough magic to help one person though. Every time.
Except, I think the degraving of Garvey and the waking up of Mary were the same earthquake.
Are they?
Oh yeah, I think that might
Okay.
have been the case.
Okay. More powerful earthquake.
But after the earthquake, the next earthquake, Garvey's family was all back. Another miracle.
True.
He's just picking up more family members at every season finale.
yeah.
Moral of the story is.
I mean, that is a great moment when Lori is like on the porch and everyone's like, "Who the fuck are you?"
Yeah.
That was both times, and I'm like, "That's great," because that's literally what. And then she's like, "I was what?" Like, they're like,
Duh.
What? Clears nothing up. Yeah, that stuff's great. Man, I'm trying to think of what else we need to talk about from that second episode. I feel like so much happens. We get another like dog moment where I guess we can talk about that and kind of see. What do you guys think about like? I mean, that dog symbolism is carried for like a season and a half, or I guess a full 2 seasons because we get those dog scenes at the very beginning. But yeah, I mean, a man's reunion with his dog is a beautiful thing to see. And then it's real sad to just watch that dog just be like, "Fuck this town." I've seen Joshua Tree in the summer. I'm not putting up with this shit. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that stuff?
With Meg, the council people said you fucked up the dog thing. Was that an off-screen thing?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because yeah, I remember hearing that this time and being like, did I miss something? But I don't think so. I don't think we see so little of the Guilty Remnant
Yeah.
this season that I feel like I would have remembered stuff around that. But yeah.
I don't know. I don't get the dog thing. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm still pretty. They locked it away for a whole season. Like,
Literally, yeah. Put
I
it in a
don't-
kennel.
I don't know what they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to even symbolize. Like, I can't even think of like a decent metaphor considering that it kind of crosses both seasons of like, well, if we lock it away,
Yeah.
what does that mean for this season?
Well, and so the thing, because I was thinking this time, and like the only thing I can come to is like I feel like in the first season, the dog kind of represents that part of Garvey that he's not, aware of or whatever. And so I don't know if the dog leaving at the end of this is just another layer of that, like he's severed that tie with that part of himself with the whole Patty thing, and that is done, but
it waits
feels,
around
Yeah.
after Patty's already gone, technically. So.
Yeah, and it's weird, and like I don't know, it's just kind of a weird moment for me. It feels a little, if it is that, it feels like a hat on a hat. It feels like a little too much, like we already got that, but I don't know.
Katie's asking the real
interesting.
questions here, right?
Okay.
That dog, why is it? If that dog would be eating all that blood, it'd be licking that blood right up.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, even in the real world sense, that's all corn syrup. I'm surprised how they kept
Wasn't
that dog.
eating all that blood.
Also,
yeah.
how that dog is not just covered in corn syrup at this point. Like must have got it in one take because
Yeah, that's
man,
that's
Garvey
totally
lost
fair.
a shit ton of blood, dude. Like
Which does beg the question: does he have any left?
that's
Or
true.
is he
Vampire
just-
Garvey.
Yeah, he just subsists on.
Rose from the dead, coming out of his grave.
Degraving himself and
He's back to feast.
That's what season 3 is.
dude,
Can't wait.
I wouldn't even be mad. I would be like, yeah. There's like, guess what?
about
Magic
all
is
over.
real. And
now
here
vampires.
we fucking go.
And the dog is a werewolf and it comes back and they fight.
I mean,
What if the dog is a werewolf when he comes back, and it's the guy who was shooting all the dogs with, and he was like, too much competition for
He's
fresh
an
meat on the
animorph.
streets now.
We figured it out.
And the Yerks come back, and they're like crawling in people's ears. Those are the aliens that in Animorphs that they're
Yep.
fighting.
oh, I
Okay,
actually
you
never
got
read
it.
Animorphs. So
Oh,
I thought you said
I
the, I,
only
saw, I
looked
thought you
at
said
the
the Uruks,
covers.
like the
Oh, no, sorry.
Urukai from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
I was like, why not? Throw them in there.
Sure, yeah.
Got an elf.
Crossover.
Get some Uruks.
I mean, the parallels between Jesus and vampires, pretty strong.
Yeah.
You have to
Drink my
invite
blood.
them in.
Yeah, yeah.
Guess neither of
They
them
rose
have good
from the
luck with
grave. Mm.
crosses, huh?
No,
Neither of
they
them
rose
have good
from the
luck with
grave.
crosses, huh?
No, they both don't like
That's
crosses.
very true.
Which is gonna be a real shame to the Catholics when he tells them that. Guys, I'm actually not a big fan.
There's a joke about that in Mistborn that I appreciate.
I don't remember that.
Is Jesus in Mistborn?
Kinda, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I don't
read it now.
remember that either.
Now that I know
Really?
it's a holy book.
I mean, it's not Jesus, but it's a Jesus facsimile.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't remember like a cross thing though. Anyway,
It's a spear.
yeah, okay.
Hashtag spoilers.
But yeah, so,
definitely
I mean,
not about spoilers on this episode, on this podcast.
That's true. That's right.
not even phased, because it fits the tone. Vampires. So here's hoping vampires, and
Fingers
Resident
crossed.
Evil's doing it. All the
Boy,
cool
are they
kids are
doing
doing it. I'm so excited for recommendations.
I mean, I'm excited that you're excited. Anyways, yeah. So, I think that I think this season too. I guess the thing I want to kind of gauge where you guys are at too are there's like a lot of discussions in the fandom about in the Leftovers fandom specifically about season 2 being like miles better than season 1, which I remember when I initially read it I was like, I don't get that. I think that for me there are some higher highs in season 2.
That's exactly how I felt. Yeah.
But I think tonally season 1 is so consistent and it's really heavy but and it's really somber, which I think this one does away with a little bit. There's a little bit more kind of melodrama and stuff that happens, but yeah, I was shocked. There's a huge contingent of the fan base that's yeah, season 1 just got to get through it, and then season 2, and I'm like, I don't know that that's a good way to look at it. I don't know. So I don't know if you guys have thoughts on that, but I
felt the exact same way
about
you
that.
just described. I feel, as I was watching this episode, actually, I was like, man, the season definitely has some bullshit in it that I feel like is the lows of this season are much lower than anything in season 1, in my opinion. But then the highs are also, I think, reach higher than anything in season 1, in my opinion. So it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think this season we get those. We just talked about these last 2 episodes, and I would put both of those last 2 episodes. I think the season finale is a better than average episode of The Leftovers, and I think that the one about Meg and Tommy is a less than average show episode of this show. And so, yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah,
But,
I think, season 1 has a much better season finale too. I think.
Sure.
But
yeah.
What did you guys think?
I was just wondering.
I agree.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I don't know if I have much to add to that, but yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I feel like, I guess one thing, I feel like the tones between the 2 seasons are a lot. They're just different. So I could see how maybe some people would enjoy season 2 more because it doesn't feel as heavy. So maybe that's why people gravitate more towards it. I don't know if it's as bleak. Maybe I don't know. Season 1 was pretty. It felt really dark sometimes, and I think even I mentioned this a couple maybe at the beginning of season 2 that it feels like even the way it's shot, season 1 is just so everything's blue and gray and all the colors and everything that you see, and then season 2 is bright and there's a lot more colors that we see. So visually they feel very different as well. So I wonder if people pick up on that more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think that's a good point. I think too, I think about the scene in season 1, when Gladys is stoned, that is going back to that is always shocking after having kind of the distance of the next 2 seasons and coming back to that and being holy shit, they just really went all in on this. And it is, so yeah, I think maybe that is a part of it, I guess, kind of that bleakness and heaviness, but I don't know. I like them both. I like a lot of things about both of them, but I was just interested to hear if there was anything, if you guys shared that sentiment at all. Man, do you have any I feel like we kind of talked a lot about stuff. There's so much stuff that I'm there's so much stuff in these episodes that's kind of harder to figure out how to talk about. There's so many big weird questions that are introduced and
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff that's dragged out in these 2 episodes though. So it's
Sure.
hard to. I feel like we've covered
Yeah.
everything I can think of, because
It takes its
a
time.
lot
with
of Meg and Tommy's episode is just repeating the same shit, and it's just long and drawn out.
stuff. Yeah.
And I hate them both, so I don't want to talk about them.
Well, and it's, yeah.
And then the stuff in the finale is like, I mean, I feel like I guess we didn't talk too much about the church, like with Michael but I mean, I feel like what
I
you
see
said
what you're
about
saying.
it kind of sums up everything about it, though.
Yeah. I think that I think there are definitely some moments in this that are like pretty pivotal. Like if you had to like choose a scene for a thesis statement, like I think that moment between Michael and his mom is like pretty great for this season and for like kind of the people of Jordan. Yeah, I don't know. Any final thoughts on?
I think one thing that's been present throughout the whole show, but I noticed a lot in these 2 episodes, is people just not knowing what to do. And someone even says out loud, "What am I supposed to do?" And that's just like a verbalization of one of my greatest frustrations as an adult.
Sure.
It's just no one knows shit. No one knows how to fix it. No one knows what's going on. No one knows the answers. And it's just frustrating that no one knows. So yeah, that does. It's nice to see it in a TV show, I guess.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's one of the things that I think draws me to The Leftovers. I'm sure there are a lot of shows that can kind of match The Leftovers on a, production level and acting and writing. But I think the themes and stuff that it chooses to explore and the questions that I'm asking myself afterwards, like contemplating, I think about the Matt episodes, like in particular, like the things I kind of like was thinking about after that. I can't think of too many other shows where I'm asking questions like that, like really existential things that I'm like, not only do I not know the answer to this question now, I probably will never know the answer to this question. Like, and that's, I don't know. So yeah, it is kind of refreshing to see that.
Man,
and
it's some meta shit with that mystery box of this guy.
yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. Any other thoughts on this? Any predictions going into season 3? We got big thumbs up for vampires and werewolves.
Sticking with it.
I mean, honestly, after like season 2, would have never guessed any of this shit. Like,
Sure.
I mean, right before I watched which episode is it? Yeah, that 9th episode.
Mm-hmm.
I put it together what Evie did, and I felt so stupid. I was like, shit, like, like, duh. Like, I look back at everything, I'm like, okay, yeah. When they have to drive back into town is when they're like, fuck, and like quiet and like all that stuff. So it's like it all made sense, and so I felt really dumb that it took me that long. But
Yeah.
But other than that, there's nothing I could have predicted. So going into season 3, I'm like, it's probably going to take place in like Europe, and
Okay.
they now
Australia,
own a coffee
maybe?
house, and
they own a yes. And their names are they have different names for some reason, and we find out they've gone to witness protection. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, I think Australia too is interesting. We do get that weird Australian. He's like the little oh God, why
Major
is
Australian
Briggs.
that could.
the what?
What?
The little Australian that can, Briggs, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's
Oh, yeah, Briggs.
That's kind of what I was trying to connect to. Yeah. So yeah, I think cool. Okay. All right. Well, that is it for episodes 9 and 10 of season 2, The Leftovers. If you want to talk to us about any of that shit or complain to us about what we talked about today or last week, you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com. Reach out to us on Instagram or Twitter at rewatcherspod. We're going to take a brief break and be back with some recommendations of other stuff that we've been watching or playing during the week. See you later. Welcome to the recommendations section of the podcast. We're here to talk about other things that we have been watching, reading, listening to, playing, anything that we've been consuming throughout this week that isn't The Leftovers. Justin, what do you have to start us off this week?
Okay, to start off, I watched a few things recently. The first thing that I wanted to mention is a movie. I think Tyler Harris, you mentioned this a while ago. It's an Amazon movie called The Sound of Metal.
Oh yeah.
I definitely recommend this movie. It's about a heavy metal drummer who is losing his hearing and kind of the stuff that he deals with as a consequence of that. I think Tyler, you also talked about like the sound design in the movie.
Yeah.
Really interesting stuff. Yeah, it's a good movie to check out. I don't think there's a lot that I have to say about it. Acting is really great in it, and yeah, if you're in for something that's it feels a little more like Sundancey kind of. But yeah, check that out. Another movie that I watched, I think Tyler McKinley, you talked about this one before, The Handmaiden. Did you talk about The Handmaiden?
Oh yeah, I did watch that.
Yes.
You watched the Handmaiden?
I watched The Handmaiden, yes. And I didn't realize it was the one you talked about until I was watching it. And I was like, oh.
I'm glad
say,
you were also shocked.
I only remember one thing from that recommendation. So okay.
Yeah, when I watched it, I didn't know what I was getting into. All I knew was I know who the director was, and that's about it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Who is the director? Is it Park Chan
Yes,
Wook? Okay.
yes, yeah. Which I don't think I've watched any of his other movies. I haven't seen Old Boy. That's on my list that I'll get to eventually, but I know that's the one that everybody recommends to check out. But anyways, I would say this is a recommendation. I think that it's beautifully shot. Its story, I like. When I finished it, I jumped online to see what other people were thinking about it, because that's what I do basically with every movie that I watch now. But I just need to feel validated, I guess.
Sure.
But there were a lot of people talking about how they thought the story was like really unique or interesting, and I kind of thought it was a little predictable. I don't know. I didn't think. I feel like. So there's like 3 main acts in the movie, and I felt like the final act, I thought was really great. And just because it kind of like puts together everything that happens in the first 2 acts, obviously. The sex stuff is a thing. There's a lot of it, and I don't know. I think that my personal opinions about it were that I thought that what was shown was appropriate for the story that was being told. I don't think I felt as uncomfortable as you did with what was being shown, but yeah, I don't know.
Tyler is the podcast prude, if I had to choose one.
You learn a lot about how 2 women can have sex with each other if you watch this movie.
That's not what was. I mean, that was surprising. It was more surprising of like how long it went on for. But then the thing I disagreed with about it was that main villain. That's kind of what he was doing, but the director was also kind of guilty of the same things he was kind of accusing this character for.
Yeah, I felt like that was sort of the point, though, is like them capturing something that was being stolen from them by like.
I think you can accomplish that without going to the lengths.
Okay,
whereas I could be wrong, but it almost feels like a little like fetishy from his like the male director's perspective of like okay, now 69 each other. Okay, now scissor each other. Okay, now go down on it. It's like, okay, we get like I don't know. Like it wasn't so much like I think spoiler, not even a big deal of a spoiler, but it's like they show the same sex scene twice, but the second time is the director's extended cut of it. And it's significantly longer. And that's kind of where it was like that for me. I was like, okay, I don't know about this. And then there's like more after that. And I'm like, I don't know. To me, it felt a little gross and self-serving in that way, I guess. I don't know. But I think a lot of that comes down to like, I'm not saying like, well, we should cancel this director and he'll burn in hell. It's like a lot of it just comes down to, well, that's his thing. Like only he knows what his intentions were with that. And it's like, to me, it came across wrong, but.
Okay. Yeah. I'd still recommend the movie.
But yeah, I think what you mentioned about like it's beautifully shot, I also recommend it. I don't want anyone to. I just think that is a caveat that people should be aware of going into it.
Yeah. Let's see, and then the final thing that I wanted to bring up. I don't know. I don't know if you guys have watched Invincible on Amazon yet. So this is the Robert Kirkman and I can't remember the other guys that wrote this comic. It's a superhero show that is based on a comic series. And I forgot to do this, but I was going to like write down a list of all of the voice actors that are in it because it's pretty packed with big names. Stephen Yeun is kind of the main character, and him and then J.K. Simmons are like the two main dudes. But this is basically it's a story about like it's kind of like Superman it's like Superman, but what if Superman was bad? Which sounds unoriginal, but because
like bad morally, not like Michael Jackson's bad.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Because Superman is Michael Jackson's bad for sure.
Yeah.
You mean like Michael Jackson's?
Yeah, but the way that it's animated, it feels like I started watching it, I was like, this feels like Saturday morning cartoons. And then the end of the first episode happens. I'm like, holy shit, this is not Saturday morning cartoons. This is insane. Because it's got like Robert Kirkman is he the sole author of The Walking Dead, or is he just the one who did the
at least for the first huge chunk of it.
Yeah. So like imagine like Walking Dead gore in a children's like Saturday morning cartoon superhero show. That's kind of what happens.
I'm sold.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I definitely recommend this. I'm sure you've seen like the memes that's going around about the guy who's like, think Mario, think, or whatever, like that format is. Like that's where this is coming from. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. They've got it set up for another season. I don't know how far it's going to go. I'm not familiar with the comics, so I don't know what's happening, but the world is really interesting. With like, I really like cool superhero stuff. So there's like all kinds of like unique superhero things happening all over the place. And aside from like the main story that's being told, and you see a bunch of that in the season finale of like all the stuff that's happened throughout the season, all these like side stories and stuff. They have like this montage of like all these things like happening on the side that were caused from plot points that happened throughout the season. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely check it out if you're not gore averse, I guess, because it is pretty gory, but it's a lot of fun.
How many episodes have you watched?
I finished it, and I think there were 8 episodes in the first season.
Okay.
It's pretty quick too. I think each episode's like 40 minutes, so I watched it over the course of 2 nights. It was really easy to watch. So yeah.
Just a random question on this because I can't remember. Have you watched The Boys?
I've not.
Okay.
No.
Have you? You've watched The Boys?
First season. I have not watched the second season.
Okay. Just wondering.
Are you a fan of the second season?
Okay. I didn't watch. I was late to The Boys. I didn't watch season 1 until like right before season 2 was coming out. But fuck, that show. I like that show a lot.
I need to watch
as
it.
far
It's
as
just
like what it's doing writing.
I don't know why it's hard for me to get in like the mood to.
I know exactly why it's hard for you to get in the mood. Like there's some. Yeah, no, I get it. As much as I recommend it, like we want to talk some fucked up shit. The Boys has some fucked up shit. Especially in the second season, some stuff that's very close to home to current events in a way that I was like, oh my god. Anyways, it's pretty good. Cool. Yeah, I definitely want to check out Invincible though too. I remember seeing the trailers. And I'm like, this looks like a '90s cartoon, and it kind of turned me off a little bit until I heard like other stuff about it. Like,
that's definitely like the point of it. Like the point of the animation, at least, is it draws you in with that nostalgia, but then it's just like hits you in your face with just really messed up shit.
That's crazy.
I think its selling point is like, because I remember as I got to be a slightly older kid, I remember like watching, because I mean I watched a lot of reruns of like late 80s stuff and early 90s stuff, and I remember like watching He-Man and Ninja Turtles and being like, this is swell and all, but they're fighting the same guy and there's no risk, no one's dying, like, and so
Mommy, where's the risk of loss in this episode of He-Man? No one is being degraved.
But yeah, so yeah, like I think that's the pitch where it's like if you want that those feels with like I don't know, I've only watched the first 30 minutes of the first episode, so I still have yet to establish a good opinion on it, I think, but
Yeah, I'm excited.
that's what brought me in. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
you should check it out. Definitely.
Tyler, what did you have for us?
Okay, so
Speaking of weird fetishes,
hey,
go ahead, Tyler.
so I learned if you get like a really big belt,
Is this more Egyptian shit?
The Egyptians used to take the belt and hang it in their closet. Okay.
Oh my god.
it's called the Anubis Twister. All right.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. All right. So, Gwen, what did you have for us?
Well,
Oh man, okay, I'm gonna stop there. Okay. So I finished Yasuke on Netflix, the African Samurai one.
Oh, yeah. You texted me about this. You had finished it last week and not realized it, right?
Well, yeah, I mentioned last week. I was
time.
like, they kind of wrapped up the first story arc, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna go on the adventure after like 3 episodes. I'm like, oh, I thought this thing was gonna be 6 episodes, but apparently it's more. No, it was only 6 episodes, and yeah, I mean, it was a letdown, to be honest. I mean, there's some cool things about it. It's done by the same studio as Dorohedoro as far as animation goes, but the animation style is different. They use different techniques to do it. Like Dorohedoro uses a lot of like the 3D models, and in fact, I would say the best usage of the cheating version of anime where they do the 3D model with textures over it. And I think it looks really great in Dorohedoro. And not that this show looks bad or anything. It's just it isn't quite as fluid. There's a lot of I can't remember the term for it. Went to school for animation. I feel stupid, but the things will change sizes because when you're drawing things over and over again, you forget to constrain it, or when things rotate, you're not quite sure how. So it's like swords are like constantly changing sizes and shit. But anyway, if you're an anime nerd, go ahead and watch it. You'll probably like it. But yeah, I did not love it. I felt storyline writing wise, it was pretty weak. It almost felt like a treatment, like something you'd send in to be like, hey, can we make a whole show out of this?
Gotcha. Which I wonder if it was that. Like,
I mean, that's a lot of work for that.
Yeah, but I mean, I wonder, like, with Netflix, I feel like Netflix is just picking up as much anime as they can. So I wonder about the production around that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like I only recommend it if you're like just watching anime at 2 times the speed and trying to absorb as much as possible.
Right. Pro gamer moves, I think is what you're talking about.
Then I mean, I did watch that one episode of Invincible. I had not played Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, really. So I picked that up and I played it all the way through. And then I immediately started Resident Evil 8 Village. And holy shit, I am glad I did. I'm first, 7 is really good. It's a real change of pace from Resident Evil.
I want to ask you this about 7. Do they nail the Louisiana grime?
I mean, Katie was watching me play something. She's like, is this like what some of the houses were? And I was like, this is like a caricature of what, I mean, there's some rooms in there that I'm like, I've been in this room. And then there's some rooms I'm like, this is the rooms I've been in on crack. Like,
Because I will say, lots of times when I think back to my time with Resident Evil 7, I'm like, grime. Everything is covered in grime.
the very beginning when you like lift the lid and that cockroach goes all over, I mean, that's pretty normal.
Okay, good to know.
But the food inside usually tastes pretty good. But it might be roadkill, and you just don't ask. But yeah, Resident Evil 7 is a lot dark. I would say darker than any Resident Evil that's come before it, and is smaller too. The actual whole map size is pretty small, but it uses it very well. The level design is fantastic. The way you go about gameplay is very interesting. On how like there's these videotapes where you'll see things revealed about before, so it's really well done. I can't recommend that enough. But you know what's better is Resident Evil fucking Village.
The fucking village?
Yeah,
Resident Evil, the fucking village.
you get into town and everyone's just trying to fuck you. You just gotta run. Where this really takes a turn for the ridiculous. Like, I wasn't sure like how they're gonna work in vampires and werewolves into the Resident Evil universe, but I am so glad they did. It is so bonkers, like, and I'm worried. I'm worried that this whole thing is just in his head, and there's like some weird stupid twist where it's like none of this was actually real. Like the werewolves represent like your bottled in masculinity or whatever. Like, I don't want that. I want Resident Evil to be big and ridiculous. It's going to be divisive. I already seen people online who are pissed about it because it's the same reason those people were pissed about Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was a huge turn for the series that was just like shittiest gameplay in the world to be a horror experience, whereas then it was like, what if we made it through a little bit of Indiana Jones in there? Like, and that's what this is. Okay. This is like, as I'm playing, I'm like, this is the best adventure game I've played. Like, this is it's scary as hell at times. Like, I've heard people complain that Village is not as scary as 7, and I'm like, there's a section I played where you go to this house that I almost peed my pants way harder than any time I peed my pants in 7. Like, we're talking holes through shorts. Like, I was fucking terrified. And there's plenty of wonderful horror moments in this. There's definitely a lot of crazy, kooky adventure stuff.
Yeah.
And they played some of that pretty early.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I was shocked at something they showed pretty early on, like, of as far as, like,
how
crazy the world is going to get.
Yeah, I think I know what
and
you're saying.
I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. This is what this is. And I am thrilled to be here. It looks amazing. The only critique I have about both those games is, and I think this is probably true about Resident Evil in general, but I think especially in these games, is the gameplay and the combat is so geared towards the moment-to-moment fights that the boss battles kind of suck. Like, they're not wonderful because it wasn't built to do what they're trying to do. There's a difference between fighting a lumbering zombie and like a 50-foot like tentacle monstrosity that's crawling around a building. Like, you can't make both work.
Yeah. I've also been playing Resident Evil 8, and I've been playing exclusively with my girlfriend, and she has not played very many video games, but has played a lot of Resident Evil, which I will say, like, I know that there are going to be complaints that this game's too easy, but that's actually, it's like a really fun game to play with people. And if you, especially like people who maybe aren't super familiar with video games, it's super fun before those like scary moments. But I also think, one of the best looking games I've played like in the last little while. And I think again, like the design of like levels and, it's just really fun. I mean, my favorite character in the whole world is in this game, who's the Duke. I want him to cook me meals all day. He's just a wonderful, wonderful man.
I'm just gonna say this up front. If anyone's gonna play it, Justin, once again, people might say this is a spoiler. This is doing you a favor. If you come across any meat in the game, do not sell it.
I did the same thing.
Do not get rid of it.
Okay.
You need it. Just hold on to it because it doesn't tell you how you can't use it until later, but you start getting it early. And
I got a bunch of that. I sold it literally 5 minutes before they're like, "Oh yeah, you've got meat. Bring it over here." And I was like, "You fucks, you fucks."
No, I fortunately I sold it, and immediately as I sold it, I was like, "Wait a second," and then I looked it up online. And I was like, okay, so I reloaded my save and just like replayed it a little bit because, like, thank goodness I'm still missing one recipe and I'm worried that I might have missed a fish somewhere. But
yeah, I think like to what you're saying about this being like a great adventure game, the way that the kind of hub for this game kind of unfolds and you get that you're kind of accumulating those items that let you unlock more things is paced out so perfectly. Like I never want to stop. Like whenever it's like I really need to go to bed, I have a really hard time turning off Resident Evil. But man, yeah, I love it so much. I'm having a great time. I still haven't finished it, but
Yeah, neither
I
have
think
I.
I'm probably getting close-ish. But yeah,
Yeah, you're collecting like a certain items, right?
yeah.
I have 3 of 4 of those.
So do I.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we're probably pretty close then.
yeah,
Yeah, very Metroidvania type like level. Like you can unlock stuff and later like there's a hub area. Not really a hub.
yeah.
It's hard to say that that's a hub area, but it's like there's a main area, and then as you do like the dungeons, I guess, quote unquote, like you can come back with the items you've gotten to like go to new places, unlock certain areas, and that's done so well. And like not just like obviously there's like keys to doors, but then there's like I can't spoil it. Sometimes there's like event driven things and new obstacles that get introduced that weren't there before.
Yeah.
You're like, finally I've unlocked the door. Fuck. Like,
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the map. So the map in this game does some quality of life stuff that I fucking love. Like whenever you enter a room, it will turn that on your map. It will turn it red until you've collected every item that's in there, and then it turns it blue, which for me is like a dream come true to like just have the game tell me like, you did it. You can move on now, because I'm that guy who will like be looking under tables, and it's just ridiculous. But that's really cool. And I also think like kind of talking about that main area, like being able to come back to it and like look at that map and be like, oh, I just need to go over here. And it's like it's never the right way to go. Like so the map is like helpful, but also like kind of fucks you over if you're like relying on it, because like, oh fuck, I've got to go, like, I don't know, it's really interesting. I think that world flavor is like really cool and well done. But yeah.
I think
So
one caveat to talk about both these games is the voice acting is not the best, and it's not so much the acting as the directing of like.
But in some ways, those are like some of the best moments too.
Exactly.
Just like I think some of the best lines from Resident Evil is past.
I think that, especially like Resident Evil 4, I think nails that a little bit better for me, because like it's so campy and it just leans into that, where there's times, especially in 7, where it feels like it's trying to take itself a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Gosh, I need to talk to you about specific things.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I did. I cannot recommend this game enough right now. Maybe that'll change when I finish it and it's all Wizard of Oz, and I'll be pissed. But fuck the fanboys. I want more weird stuff in Resident Evil on the way forward. Let's go.
Awesome.
That's all I did.
Okay.
Oh no, that's a lie. The Mass Effect trilogy has been re-released, everyone, and I don't know if I can stress enough how much of my soul this game is. It's so Knights of the Old Republic, which was made by the same team who made Mass Effect, is one of my favorite video games of all time. It's the best thing that's ever come out of Star Wars since the original first 2 movies that were made, and it's phenomenal. And so this was their follow-up to that, where they decided to make their own sci-fi universe. The world building in it is second to fucking none, I think. I'm playing it through this time. I think that there's definitely things that don't age well. Like, it's hard to recommend this because you do have to slog through the gameplay of 1, even with the changes they've made. The gameplay of 1 is just not good.
But it is fun to just crouch down as Shepard and watch that man's legs do inhuman things as you move around.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
It is very RPG, lots of dialogue. You have to want to like learn about the world, and I love how they do it. It's kind of like you learn about 40% of the lore just by going through the game, but like everything else is optional. You can go as deep you want, and it's not done through just walls of text, and that's what I love. You can go talk to characters who have interesting things to say, who teach you about the lore in as well as you can without being too heavy-handed on. And this is this, and this is how this works. It's more like it's applied to the characters and how they interact with the world is what teaches you about it. And it's just great. It's a wonderful sci-fi universe, and it strikes the perfect balance of like H.G. Wells old school, like for lack of a much better term, because I hate this term, but like the high-minded sci-fi with like what sci-fi has kind of become now of like the action popcorn movie stuff. It's like it melds those two perfectly together. and it's a wonderful RPG that's party based. You have great side missions, companions. I love it. And and the highlight of the whole trilogy is that lots of choices are made, and those choices then your save file carries over to the next game, and they pay off in like maybe not as meaningful as some people want, but like this was made back in 2007, and like really awesome ways. And some little characters that and missions that you don't think are like worth anything in number 1 turn out to be like these really cool payoffs in 2. Yeah, I love Mass Effect so goddamn much, and I hate that Andromeda sucked ass, and I really hope they can get that series back on track. But the new remastered trilogy is out now. I've been playing that, and I can't recommend it enough.
Cool. All right, Gwen, what did you have for us this week?
Okay. I listened to Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers, which is the 3rd in the Wanderer series that I've been reading. And it's just, it's feel-good stuff. The shtick of the series is that you follow a different set of characters each book that's, like, vaguely connected with the last set of characters. And so this one is, there were, like, the premise is 2 different diasporas of humans from Earth, and this is following a set of characters from the descendants of one of those. That was a really clumsy way to say that. But yeah,
I think I got it.
That's good stuff. I think a lot of people liked it less than the second book, but I liked it better, I think.
And that's the Wanderer series? Is that what you said?
Yes, okay. By Becky Chambers. And then I also finished Good Morning Midnight by Lily Brooks Dalton. And this is like The Road meets A Man Called Uwe. And it's like...
Sorry.
Right?
Face. You take a breath.
So it's like crusty old man at the end of the world learns to love. And like it was really well written and people raved about it and it had good like beats and a good ending and I just didn't connect with it at all.
Nice.
I got to the end and was like, all right, I guess. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was because so there's the old man that you follow who's at an observatory in the North Pole, and right after the world ends, everyone evacuates except for him, and then this little girl appears, and so you follow him and her through their journey. And then there's a group of astronauts that are returning from Saturn when the world ends, and one astronaut in particular, and I just did not get her character development at all. I didn't know what I was supposed to be feeling with her. So yeah, it was fine, I guess. Also halfway through Hyperion, which is the Canterbury Tales in Space. And I read it 5-6 years ago, and I just did not get it. And this time I'm loving it, so it's great. Follow up on that next week. And then I started on Netflix that sci-fi stowaway movie, and I got too stressed out, and I had to stop.
2 thumbs way up then, huh?
I guess.
Stowaway made me feel like one. 5 stars.
See, nothing stressful was happening. They were looking at like botanicals in the spaceship, and there was jazz music playing, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't!" Like, I had to turn it off. Nothing scary was happening. Nothing tense was happening.
It feels like you just described like getting introduced to like a friends group of friends and like having to hang out with them for an evening.
Yeah.
Looking at botanicals, jazz music was playing. I gotta get out of here.
Maybe I'll make Justin watch it with me so I can handle it. But
sounds amazing.
It's a movie. It's not a series, right?
Yeah, it's a movie. So that happened.
Okay. I just love like how many books are on that list, and then just the idea of a movie.
Look, I got like a full 30 minutes in, okay?
Okay, that's fair.
They've already launched, they're in space.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay.
A reverse Gaston situation. How do you watch this? There's no words.
They all just have too many feelings.
Do we need to turn the subtitles on?
I mean, honestly, that might help. Then I don't have to look at their faces while they talk.
Hang crepe paper over the top part of the TV. So it's just subtitles. All right. I played a lot of video games this week. I also played Resident Evil.
Let's talk about it.
I started Mass Effect, which I'm not to the part that's past the improv videos that we made. So it's still like, I'm still like, oh man, I can't wait to get to the parts of Mass Effect that are unsullied by just bullshit comedy that we made up.
Die every time, man. All I can think of, would you like me to blow it up for you, sir? Like,
when they watched the video early on of all those people getting slaughtered, I was very disappointed it wasn't a hand-drawn animation tutorial video about disarming nuclear weapons. That's a deep cut for our real fans. Anyways, so I won't talk about those, but I did finish Near Replicant, which I had talked about a couple weeks ago, and I got all the endings in that game. I really love it. It's a real hard recommend to make to people because it's, I don't know, there's something very specific about that game. There's some design choices in that game also that I'm now recognizing is extremely just Japanese game philosophy. There's a lot of stuff that feels like Yakuza in that game where it's like, oh, this is kind of a bullshit fetch quest, and it's either going to be exactly that, a bullshit fetch quest, or it's going to pay off in a way that normally something like this shouldn't, and there's no way to tell. So that can be a little frustrating. But I think, man, the writing in that game is like equal parts extremely fucking clumsy and then like really poignant and insane, and there's some really like great, I think, like game moments where it just kind of like is all of a sudden you're playing a visual novel, and it's literally just a black background and white text on your screen for a long time, like you were reading a lot of text, and it's very meta, like the characters are calling that fact out, and it's like describing, it's just crazy, it's really cool. But
I mean, I think that's something I noticed between the difference between this and Automata is Automata feels more like it's invoking genres, whereas this feels like specific games. Like the first dungeon you do is very much supposed to be a Zelda dungeon,
right?
And where the ending is like you get an item at the end, it does like the spin around and like the hold up with the item and stuff. And then you mentioned the Resident Evil mansion in it,
right?
Like,
yeah.
And then that whole text-based adventure thing is
So it's really cool. The ending that they added, because they did add an ending to this game. This is a 10-year-old game they remade, but they added an ending that kind of ties it more directly to Automata. And it took me a little bit of Googling to fully understand what those connections were. But it's pretty cool. And despite some of the like pervy things that are done to a specific character in this game, she's really fucking rad and like has one of my favorite arcs in a video game I've seen in a while. And just, anyways, it's weird. It's, again, hard to recommend. If you're into it, you probably already know about it. So I don't know. Anyways, the other things I want to talk about, I have been watching, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but there's a really bad prank show on Netflix called Prank Encounters, hosted by one of the kids from Stranger Things. And
was this like controversial?
Was it?
Well, just like the idea of a prank show even existing anymore, I think was the bigger thing, less so.
Oh yeah, I mean it's questionable. You watch it and you're like, we probably shouldn't be doing this. Like, and it's all people who are showing up for temp jobs. So you're like, these people are already like, and now you're just gonna like make them think zombies are real for 15 minutes and laugh at them. And it's really fun. Here's the thing. It's so stupid. Like, it is, this is a show that like, like,
last thing
you should watch it. You should watch with someone, and you should watch it kind of like right before you go to bed. Because like, it's so stupid, but it's really easy to just talk shit on it and have a fucking great time. But there's 2 seasons of it, and also they like they do, I don't know why they did this, but that's why I love it. There's like an episode in the first season where like this girl gets hired to come and be kind of like a nurse's assistant for this woman who is recovering from plastic surgery, but then you find out that the guy who did the plastic surgery on her has kidnapped her and is doing plastic surgery on her to make her look like his dead wife. And so then like at the end of that, the detective comes in and the plastic surgeon guy kills the detective, all this stuff. season 2, they do a sequel to that. And it's like
To the same person?
no. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping that it was like something like ridiculous like that would happen, or they would be actors in the new one. But it's like, why? Why would you do that? But then also, I was like, fuck, sure, why not do a sequel to a prank that you did one time? So, anyways, Prank Encounters on Netflix. It's trash. It is absolute trash that I cannot recommend highly enough. The last thing I wanted to recommend is an album by Bob Lord. This album is called Playland Arcade. Bob Lord's like a prog metal or prog rock guy. And this album's just really fucking weird. I honestly don't know if I like it that much, but I was just completely drawn into this album. Despite like what other prog rock albums seem to do, there are 19 songs on this album and it's only 40 minutes long. So it's like already like being its own version of prog rock. But yeah, it's kind of...
How do you prog in a minute and a half?
Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, my friend. Bob Lord puts it in. But yeah, so... I don't know. Check it out. If you're looking for something weird that's maybe different than what you might normally listen to, Playland Arcade by Bob Lord is pretty fun. But yeah, that's it for me. So we'll be back next week, kicking off season 3 of The Leftovers, the first 2 episodes. And yeah, I'm very excited to get into it. It's in some ways it gets more normal, and in some ways it gets way weirder. So it's going to be a good time. But you've been here with me, Tyler Harris, and...
Gwen Hammer.
Tyler McKinley.
Justin Hammer.
Spooky TV shows next week.